I'm so glad you're here. This week we're doing another fairy tale inspired project, and it's not a spooky or dark twist, it's just kind of more of a retelling. Back in March when I was doing the Disney Bound challenge, one of the prompts said Disney Princesses Taylor's version. Instead of understanding that they meant Taylor Swift style Disney princesses, I thought it meant the Disney princesses if they were in charge of their own narrative. Because as I understand it, the Taylor's version thing is her releasing her music under her control and not that producer guy, which is like her controlling her narrative. So I massively overthought the prompt, and I started diving into princess fairy tales that I thought would be interesting if the princesses were in charge of the story. Off the top of my head, if I had to choose a princess who is massively out of control of her own story, it would be Sleeping Beauty, even though most of the classic fairy tale princesses are out of control of their own narrative. The classic tale of Sleeping Beauty has been retold so many different ways, the earliest version being the most horrific, and then every version after that being somewhat more similar to each other with only minor differences. The king and queen have a baby, it's sometimes a birthday celebration, sometimes it's a blessing day celebration, and they invite the fairies. In some retellings there are 3 good ones and 1 evil one, sometimes there are 7 fairies, and sometimes there are 13. There are many different versions with many different fairies. But always, there's one who is slighted in some way. Sometimes she's not invited because they think she's dead. Sometimes she's not invited because they think she's evil. And sometimes she is invited, but she's not given the same treatment as the other fairies. In one of the versions I read, they had gold place settings for all of the fairies, but they ran out. One didn't get one, so she turned into the evil fairy. And this fairy is so petty that she curses a baby for her parents' mistakes to punish them. And this petty fairy curses her to prick her finger on a spinning wheel at the age of 16, and then... But in most retellings, it's the fairy that goes after her that hears her plan and says, no, she'll just fall asleep for 100 years. 100? 100 years? Why? It couldn't be 100 days. It couldn't be 100 hours. It couldn't be, you know, no days or hours. You have magic. I don't know. This was that fairy's gift. And I guess compared to what she was just given, it is a better gift. So then the king and queen are so frightened of this happening to their daughter that they get rid of all of the spinning wheels in the kingdom to protect her, which doesn't work because in some versions, the fairy makes one appear and she's in disguise waiting for the girl to come, and she beckons to her and tells her to try it out. In other versions, there's just some woman who didn't get the memo that you're not supposed to have spinning wheels, and she says, yeah, you know, you can try it, sure. And then it happens. In the Disney version, she seems to be under some sort of trance and goes toward the spinning wheel. There's much more magic involved. But then, of course, she falls asleep for 100 years until some man comes through all of the thorns that have grown around the castle, goes up to her room and awakens her. This guy is usually a prince in most of the versions I've read. I think in 1 or 2 he was just a guy, but I think in most retellings he is a prince. And one of the biggest issues with the story in general is him giving her a smooch when she is unable to say yes or no to that to break the curse. But I think in one of the more classic retellings of the story, he doesn't kiss her at all. He just comes in, sees her, is so overcome with instant love, I'll hold my tongue, drops to his knees and just confesses his love for her. She awakens and they talk for a few hours and then they leave and live happily ever after. There are a couple of things that bother me about the classic story. In some versions, they do say that everybody in the castle falls asleep wherever they are, whatever they were doing. RIP to anybody taking a bath or stoking a fire. But in other versions, it doesn't clarify at all if everybody in the castle falls asleep or if it's just her. Kind of a terrifying scenario any way you slice it. It's not great, and in my opinion, maybe could have been avoided? Which brings me to my reimagining. In any of these stories, the princess isn't told about the curse. It just happens to her. Anybody who was there at the blessing knows about this curse, so a ton of people know except for the person most affected by the curse. So in my reimagining, a bit of clear communication could have helped avoid a lot of things. Clear communication could have avoided this from the very beginning if they had clarified how many fairies are there? Are we missing anybody? Maybe we should double check. The fae are tricksy and can hold grudges because they live for thousands of years and we humans are but mere playthings to them. So we don't really want to make one mad. Or in the case of the golden place setting, either make another place setting or don't give any of them a golden place setting. That way nobody's left out. And they don't have to know you were even considering giving them a golden place setting. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense to me. Before this goes on anymore, I know fairy tales aren't made to make sense. They're made to teach lessons and to entertain and be magical. I just like to overthink things and apply logic where it needn't be applied. So that's what we're doing here. But assuming the king and queen are still incapable of making that decision, tell the princess? Tell the princess about the curse. Tell her! It's her life! Maybe telling her could have prepared her to look out for herself. Everybody else can still look out for her, but she will also be making informed decisions as an individual. And I won't get, I'll spare you the lecture about the patriarchal history of fairy tales, but I do feel as though a bit of clear communication could have massively impacted the outcome of her story. If she had known about spinning wheels, she would know what to avoid. She would be making informed decisions on what she should and shouldn't do, to the best of her ability. So in my reimagining, I kind of pictured her knowing about the curse from a younger age, not in a way to terrify her, but just to inform her. And I imagined this little girl with a lot of gumption, and she starts to train to protect herself. She knows that the king and queen have her back. She knows that she has people looking out for her, but she still wants to protect herself any way she can, because if the curse doesn't come to fruition, will this fairy be petty enough to come after her again? So from a young age, she starts to train in the event that she has to face the fairy that cursed her all those years ago, and essentially becomes her own knight in shining armor. So that's what I want to make. So this is the original sketch I made for this. I do want to draw a lot of inspiration from the Disney Sleeping Beauty, but I haven't decided if I want to make it blue or if I want to make it pink or if I want to make it both. There's just something about it that isn't quite fitting for me, so the end result might not look like the original sketch. I'm gonna have to do a lot of playing around with this because I don't quite know yet, which is a bit frustrating because I have been looking forward to making this since March. That's the idea. Have I ever made armor before? No, but I've watched several videos on other people making armor. It's given me just enough delusion to try it myself. I have EVA foam, I have, what is it called? Contact cement? Yeah, contact cement, glass to dip, spray paint, and half a design in mind. So it should be interesting. Hopefully not too interesting. Probably do the armor last. But before I can do any of that, I really need to figure out what design I'm using. And I'm getting a pretty late start today because I started filming and my camera, so I had to refilm the intro. So I think figuring out the design is what we're going to focus on mainly today. So I'm gonna get to work so we can work. Hello. It's the next day. I was going to sew all of the sewing things first, but I am very nervous about making the armor, so I kind of want to get that out of the way in case it affects the design I end up doing for the clothing. Like if the armor doesn't work, I'll do something a little more, I don't know. If it doesn't work. Something a little more interesting with the clothing. In the first version of the design, the armor was inspired by Chapel Roan's armor from the VMAs, but I kind of want to take some of the design elements from Sleeping Beauty's dress and put it into the armor. And then have the lines on the front kind of match the lines on the bodice. As it is right now, I'm a little concerned about running out of EVA foam because I also would like to make some pauldrons, I think that's what they're called, and some, I don't know, things that lace up on the wrist. I don't know what they're called. I also want to make her tiara. I was going to make a necklace, but I don't think it'll be necessary with everything else going on. Usually when I draft patterns, I just kind of put tissue paper on my dress form and use the tissue paper like fabric. However, I've watched a few videos on other people making armor. They tend to saran wrap their body or their dress form and then use duct tape and put it on and then draw the lines, cutting those out and using those as pieces. And in my brain, there has to be a reason for the way they do it, so I'm going to do it as they do it. I just watched a video of somebody making Belle-inspired armor and I was like, hey, that's what I'm gonna do. So I'm going to do the saran wrap and duct tape. At first, I was a little bit hesitant to use my dress form and not just saran wrap myself because my dress form has a bit more going on up top and not as much in the middle as I do, so I was a little worried about the fit, but I think it should work out okay. First, I'm going to make the pattern. Second, I'm going to cut it out of EVA foam. Third, I'm going to glue it together, and I finally did get a ventilator, so I will be using that outside as I glue this together. Then we'll plasti dip it, and then we'll spray paint it once the plasti dip is dry, and then hopefully we'll have some armor. It's my goal to have this done today, but I've never done this before and it's for some reason very intimidating to me. So I don't know if we'll get this all done today, but yeah, we're gonna try. So I'm gonna get to work. Everything is cut out except for the bracers. I think that's what they're called. I don't actually know if I'll have enough to make them, so... But those won't require any gluing, and I need to glue these together while I still have sunlight. So I'm gonna change because I have to glue these outside and it's a bit chilly and I don't want contact cement on my pretty dress. So I'm going to head outside and glue these together, and then depending on how quickly they dry, I might plasti dip them as well. So let's head outside and glue them together. Okay, everything is glued. It took forever and I did run out of sunlight and I was gluing in the dark, but it's a little rough, but I think it will... I didn't glue everything. I forgot to attach the two front pieces to each other. Okay, now everything is glued together. Chaperone in my ear. Now I'm going to go clean up the pieces that I just glued together because some of them didn't line up lengthwise, and I'll probably see if I can fill in any gaps with some foam clay. Although to cover the seams, I might just add thin strips of EVA foam along the seams to just cover them up. Don't know really what I'm gonna do with it yet, but I'll figure it out. Do you mind? All right. Where's Calcifer? Oh, hi, sweet baby. You're the sweetest little baby. Been in my workshop for a long time. Somebody is happy that I'm out here. Alright, it's been a pretty productive day. I got all of the armor put together. I just was adding some gems to make fake studs on the pauldrons and on the bracers. I'm not going to add any to the armor itself because I want it to mimic the lines of her dress, so I don't want to add any unnecessary decoration there. I want to cover up the seams. When I tried to do it with the foam clay, I wasn't sure how to make it smooth, and I think when people do this, typically you wait for it to dry and then you use a Dremel or some sandpaper and smoothen it out. I don't have either of those things, so I'm just gonna cover up the seams with more EVA foam, which kind of works with the design because I wanted to accentuate the lines on the armor mimicking the lines on her dress, so I think that'll work. I also drafted the pattern for the blue vest coat thing. I don't know what it's called, but it's what I found a lot of knight images wearing. Hopefully that'll work. And I also picked out the fabrics for the other pieces I'm gonna make, and after I almost said polycrisp. Not polycrisp. Plasti dip. Tomorrow we'll do the plasti dipping, the spray painting, and then we'll start cutting out the clothing and possibly putting that together. So I'll see you then. Hello. It's the next day. Or should I say it's the next evening, because I got an exceptionally late start today. I did go ahead and finish gluing the seam covers onto the armor. I think she's looking pretty good. I can't quite cover these seams. I tried filling it with foam clay and it didn't quite work. But in general, I think the shape will work. I'm excited to finish this up. My original plan for today was to finish gluing, plasti dip them, and then while the plasti dip was drying, I would get started on the sewing. However, it's already dark and it's quite cold, so I don't think I'm going to do that today because I have to do it outside and I don't want to do it in the dark. Instead, we're gonna kick out as much of the sewing today as I possibly can, and then hopefully we can finish the armor and maybe a shield or something tomorrow. I don't know. I haven't decided if I want to make a shield or if I need to make a shield. Probably not going to. I don't think I have enough cardboard for that. Perhaps a sword? No, I don't know. As far as the sewing goes, I did draft the pattern for the weird vest thing. I still have not Googled what it's called, and I probably won't. So as far as that goes, I'm going to sew the lining first as a kind of test run for the entire thing to make sure that the pattern will actually work. And then if the lining goes well, I'll just do that again with the actual material for the outside, some old curtains from our house. And then I'll get started on the shirt. The material I'm using for the shirt is an old vintage bedsheet. It's the pink version of the same kind of bedsheet I used in my yellow Rainbow of Projects video. I did want to turn this into a dress originally, but I think the pink looks nice for this, and it has roses on it, and she's sometimes called Briar Rose, so I thought it fit in more ways than one. So I decided what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna make a two-piece set out of that sheet so that I can wear the blouse separately for this night look and still be able to wear it with the skirt as a dress like I was originally intending to do with that sheet. The third, or rather fourth thing I need to sew is a pair of leggings to wear underneath everything. I have some pink four-way stretch fabric and I've never made leggings before, but I do have a pattern that I'll probably need to, oh goodness, that's better. I'm probably gonna have to extend it in some ways because I like high-rise and these are definitely not high-rise leggings. It's also probably going to be an absolute nightmare to sew on my machine because my machine has historically done very poorly with this kind of material. And I know it's partially because I'm not using the right needle, but I don't have the right needle. The leggings were kind of an afterthought that I already had everything else but the right kind of needle for. So we're just gonna do our best and hope that it all works out. I am already 2 days behind on this project, so I'm gonna go get to work. Okay, it's very late, but I got most of the sewing done today. The leggings are a little messy, but I think they'll work for this. I have to shorten the elastic in the top, but otherwise that's also done. I did make the skirt to go with the blouse, but the waist fits a little funny right now, so I need to do some adjusting there. Tomorrow we'll cut out and sew together the vest thing. The lining layer worked, so I'm gonna go ahead and just cut out the actual material and then finish that up. But before we get to that, we'll have to finish the armor first, which shouldn't take too long, and then we'll be installing tons of grommets. Lot to be done tomorrow, so I'm gonna call it a night, and I'll see you then. Hello, it's the next day. I don't have my coffee. I'm starting to record a bit late today because I went ahead and spray painted the armor. I didn't film the entire process because it took, I don't know, probably 2 hours, 2.5 hours with drying time. I set out a tarp, I set everything out. The wind was very kind and gentle and it didn't blow anything away. I sprayed everything first with Plasti-Dip, waited for that to dry for, I think, 30 minutes. Then I flipped them over, did the edges, waited again, turned them over, spray painted another layer. Then I went in with the gold spray paint, which didn't need as much time to dry between coats, which was nice because I did probably 3 to 4 coats per piece. And then I was going to go in with some fabric spray that had glitter, gold glitter in it. Luckily I did a test spray on the tarp because this glitter spray was just straight up yellow gold, but more yellow than gold, and I didn't see a lick of glitter anywhere. I tried on one piece to do it super far away just to see if I could add like a little bit of a gradient or a little bit of like, I don't know, depth, dimension, color. It just made a bunch of little dots like I had dropped paint on it. So I had to spray paint that piece again. Then I sealed everything with a Mod Podge sealer spray, except it's matte, so it's not going to be super shiny, but it's weathered. I didn't even plan on using a sealant, but then as I was thinking of the spray paint potentially rubbing off on my clothes, I figured I should seal it somehow any way I could, and that's the only sealant that I had on hand. It is what it is. Something I did not consider, however, was the metallic spray paint rubbing off on my skin, and wherever it did have contact with my skin turned green. I think it's looking pretty good, and there's another part of this that I hadn't thought about until now, as far as wearing the armor. I know I want to lace up the sides on my body, and I know I want to lace up the bracers. I second guess myself every time I say that. I don't know if that's what they're called. But the pauldrons, which are the ones that go on the shoulders, I don't know how I'm putting those on my person yet. I literally did not think about this until just now. Holding down a nozzle for that long also affected my hand in a way I was not expecting. I can't write right now. My hand shakes, which is a problem because I want to do some sort of animation storytelling for the reveal in this, but I can't draw right now. It'll be fine. Let's finish up this vest. Alright, the outfit is done, the tiara is drying, and all I have left to do is add some grommets to the armor. I had to move them outside overnight because they smelled so strongly of the various paints I used on them today. It was stinking up the whole house. All I have to do is add the grommets in tomorrow and then they're all done. So that means it's time for the reveal.
The young princess was very aware of her curse. Her parents had told her everything. The uninvited fairy, the spindle, the sleep. It lit a fire within her. She would not fall to any curse. She would make sure of it. And should the fairy still come to collect her life, Princess Rosamund would be ready. For years she trained, body and mind. In combat she became a proficient warrior. Under the guidance of the three fairies that had blessed her those many years ago, she trained her mind to ignore the curse's beckons. Her training paid off. Princess Rosamund's 16th year came and passed. No spindle, no finger pricks, no slumber. The evening of the princess's 17th birthday, the spiteful fairy appeared at the castle gate, where the princess was ready to meet her. She gave the fairy a chance to have a change of heart, but to the fairy, the princess's survival was yet another slight. Filled with rage and intent on collecting what the spindle had not taken, the fairy transformed into a mighty dragon. There was a great fight, but in the end, with one final blow to the dragon's chest, Princess Rosamund won. The curse was broken. The fairy had been defeated, and all was well within the kingdom once more. The end.
Oh! Ow! Well, I think that went really well. Making armor was a big first for me. I was really excited to try, and overall I think everything turned out really well. I think the biggest thing I would change is how I put them on my body. Lacing up the sides of the armor is fine. I probably could have done that myself with a lot of time and 100% more patience. Although lace up bracers, I had some issues putting those on myself. I had to call my mom to come help me put everything on because I just physically could not tie everything. Once one piece was on, I couldn't put another piece on because then it would get in the way. And then the pauldrons were the biggest issue because I didn't really think about how I was going to put those on. I originally planned to just tie them under my arms, but then there was nothing to stop them from going this way. So we had to kind of think on the fly and just kind of figure out how to tie them onto my person. We got there, but I think whenever I make armor again, I'm gonna have to do a lot more research. I just kind of ran out of time this time around, especially because this video, as it is, will be going up late, but that's okay. I love this shirt. I'll have to do another video where I just make a bunch of these shirts because I love the style of this off-the-shoulder shirt, and with the long sleeves, I'm gonna wear this a lot. I'm also wearing the dress version with the skirt, which I also really like how that turned out. No zipper, just 3 ties along the back. Filming the reveal was a bit delayed because the wig I ordered, it's a long story. Son of a witch. I don't know what I saw or remembered in that moment, but I definitely wasn't happy about it. Making this tiara took me back to when I was a kid and I went as Sleeping Beauty for Halloween. I was really upset because I couldn't find my tiara that went with the dress, and I loved that tiara. If I could find that now, I would probably put it out for decoration. So little me was very happy making this tiara to complete the outfit. I also like this earring that I made. There we have Flora, Fauna, and Merryweather represented. Those 3 are more the main character than she is, so I kind of wanted them to be represented somewhere, but my favorite part of this, aside from the tiara, is I made a sword. Is it the best looking sword? No. But it's pretty good for making it at the very last minute. I made this sword on a whim, and I would say less than 2 hours, so I can't really ask any more of her. So this is my favorite prop for this video. I thought it was going to be the tiara, but it's not. It's the sword. And despite the flaws with the armor, I think the weakest point in this project is the pair of leggings I made. I don't know how many stitches I've popped since I've put them on. I thought this material was 4-way stretch. It is not. I thought I would have to extend the pattern. I did not. They were too big, and I took them in 3 times, all the while working with this material that my machine does not like at all and would sometimes do just fine, and then other times just suddenly quit working. The zigzag stitch on my machine is not very reliable to begin with, and then when I'm working with a stretchy whatever this is, it just makes it worse. But bingo, my sewing machine, named by my little sister, it did pretty well. However, I will not be doing that again for a while. So yeah, I really like how everything turned out, and if you like it too, you can let me know by hitting the like button, and if you want to see what I'm doing next and join the channel, hit the subscribe button, and if you want to know when I post, hit the notification bell, and YouTube will let you know. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye!